Hi guys, welcome back to another video, and this video is a new one, a completely new video idea that I have never done before. I saw other YouTubers doing it, I thought I may as well do it myself. So the other day on my Instagram, which is that there, FBL_skills, I put out something on my story saying, send me your FBL teams, and if I get enough, I will make a YouTube video on it. And I did get enough, I got 5, so I'm going to review 5 FPL teams this video, talk positives, talk negatives, and just give an overall feedback on your team. And even if your team is not in this video, do have a listen because you might learn something about what players you should include in your FPL team. Anyway, enough of the waffling, let's get on with the video. So the first team that I'm going to review is Zach's team. So let's start off with the positives. What do I like about Zach's team? What I do like is that he's got Kelechi in action there. He had a brilliant end to the season last campaign. But can he replicate this form? That is the only question. But if he does, you've got yourself a real gem of a player there. And if he starts for Leicester and does what he does last season, this season, you're going to get a lot of points. What else do I like about your team? That you've got Ismaila Sarr in there. A lot of people may overlook Ismaila Sarr because he plays for Watford, but he is a talented player. He's not afraid to take on defenders. He's good at dribbling. He can score goals. And about 2 seasons ago, he wasn't in the Premier League. And he did play very well. And he did score quite a few important goals for Watford. And if they do play well this season, a lot of the goals and assists will probably come through or be because of Ismaila Sarr. And what else do I do like about your team is that you've got yourself Ben White in there. Let's be real, Ben White isn't a bad defender. I know the 50 million price tag may seem a bit far-fetched, but he's a quality defender and he's a good asset for Arsenal to have. And obviously, he played at Brighton and they kept a lot of clean sheets, so we expect that to almost transfer over to Arsenal, even if he wasn't the best defender at Brighton, let's say, which makes him sound bad. But no, he is a very good defender. And also, you've got yourself Alisson. You've got to love Alisson, one of the best goalkeepers in world football. Brilliant player. And obviously, if he has a season without any injuries, it could be very good. And he might even score another goal. Who knows? And obviously, Trent Alexander-Arnold, top-class player. When he has the ball at his feet, he can put an inch-perfect ball into the box. I like how you got him in there. The only thing is that I'm kind of a bit iffy is that you've got Jack Grealish in there. Not that he's a bad player at all, but sometimes Pep Guardiola likes to let the players take a few months maybe to adjust to the system before they start playing regular games. But with Kevin De Bruyne and Phil Foden being injured, maybe Jack Grealish might get his chance earlier on, and maybe chucking him in the deep end might be not such a bad idea, and having him in your team might not be such a bad idea neither. And also, with Tyrone Mings, the problem is not that he's not a bad defender, but I think Matty Cash is probably a better option on that target, because with those players, they both get the clean sheet points for Aston Villa, but they also go up the other end and create chances and score goals for Villa too. Not that Tyrone Mings doesn't do that, but he's a centre-back. He's sitting back most of the time. He only really goes up for corners. Whereas like someone like Matty Cash will be a constant threat down their right-hand side. So maybe you could change Tyrone Mings to Matty Cash or something. But overall, I do like your team. And obviously, I do like your bench as well because it's very solid. Most people spend so much money on their team that they don't really have enough money to have a good bench. And the next person's team is Jake's team. As you can see, I have gone portrait, and portrait has come in handy once for YouTube because then I can position myself next to the team rather than being a little one in the top corner. But anyway, enough of the waffle, and let's talk about Jake's team. What do I like about his team? First things first, I like how he's got Castagne in there. Superb player. He can play left wing back, he can play right wing back. He constantly gets down the left or the right hand side for Leicester, and he creates chances and he scores goals. And apparently, I think he has had an injury which could hamper him, but apparently, if he is fit and available, which he could possibly be, he will play against Wolves on the opening day of the season. And if you have a Castagne playing against Wolves on the opening day of the season with the rest of the Leicester players, the Iheanachos, the Harvey Barnes, the Vardys, the Dakas, the Ndidis, the Soumares, etc., it does bode well for Leicester, and it does bode well for your team too. What I also like about your team is that you've got Lewis Dunk in there. He may not be the name of a defender that comes to everyone's head first when they say who's a good defender in the Premier League, but last season he was very good for Brighton, was probably their best defender, if not their best player. He can score goals as well. I think he got 3 or 4 goals last season for Brighton, which is an asset that a lot of defenders don't necessarily have. Not all defenders score goals. And also, he's their captain, so he's going to start regularly. And last season, Brighton did keep a lot of clean sheets, and Lewis Dunk pretty much played every game, so he had a big part in that too. Another thing I like about your team is that you've got Luca Digne in there. And a lot of people may overlook Luca Digne because, I don't know, Everton has sort of dropped off everyone's radar because Calvert-Lewin's form sort of tailed off. James Rodriguez was picking up injuries. Obviously, you had Richarlison, and obviously he's an arrogant player and nobody really likes him. Well, so you might like him, but I don't. I think he's quite an arrogant player. But yeah. And then a lot of people overlook Luca Digne. But the thing is with Luca Dean, even though Rafa Benitez is a very defensive manager, I still expect Luca Dean to get down that left-hand side, whip beautiful balls into Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And obviously he's on corners and he's on free kicks as well. So he offers loads of other things and he can get you the clean sheet points because he's a defender. And obviously Rafa Benitez being a very good defensively minded manager, maybe Everton might get more clean sheets this season too. Another thing I like about your team is you've got Leon Bailey in there, and a lot of people probably won't choose Leon Bailey, especially if they don't watch the Bundesliga because you probably haven't really heard of him. But he's an exciting young player. He's quick. He can create chances. He can score goals. And if he gets a run in the Aston Villa team and starts scoring goals, his price will go up, and his ownership will too. And a lot of people may struggle to fit him in their team because of his price going up. But because you jumped on him early, you would get him for the cheap, which is good right there. So that's another thing I like about your team. And another thing I like about your team is that you've got Kai Havertz in there. A lot of people may overlook Kai Havertz because Chelsea have got an abundance of attackers, you don't know who to choose. But I do expect him to start this season. He had a brilliant end to the season last season in the Premier League. He scored in the Champions League final. He had a good Euros. And if Chelsea sign Romelu Lukaku, can you imagine a link up between Lukaku and Havertz? It'd be pretty scary for opposition players. So yeah, I think it's really good you got him in your team, and he only cost $8.5 million, and he's only owned by about 15% of the game, so he's quite lowly owned, and he's quite cheap. So I like how you've been thinking there, and I like how you chose Kai Havertz. Alright, let's now talk about the negatives, because we did talk about a lot of positives, but there are some negatives in your team. One thing I don't really like is how you've got Richarlison in there, because one, I think is an arrogant player, and two, I don't really know how good of a player he actually is. He can score goals for Everton, and he is one of their better players, but the thing is, Calvert-Lewin scores most of the goals for Everton, and the things with Richarlison is he's a lot of money for not very much player. Like, he scores goals now and then, but I don't know whether he scores enough to warrant his price tag. What is he, around 7 odd million? And then you've got players like Danny Ings, who you've got in your team, who's a good player. Ollie Watkins when he's fit, Patrick Bamford, all these players who are around the similar price tag as Richarlison, but they score quite a lot more goals and obviously create more chances as well, I think. So that's one player I don't like in your team. And another one I don't really like is Buendia. I know I was talking good about him in the video, but he's picked up an injury, I think, and he may miss the first game of the season. And the thing is Dean Smith going to risk him, a brand new player who's got adjusted to the system, and he might have a little bit of an injury as well? No, he's probably not going to risk him. So yeah, I really like your team right there, Jake. And you've got a strong bench too. You've got Callum Wilson, Cresswell, one of the highest scoring defenders in the Premier League last season in FPL. But the thing is, with Callum Wilson, because he's such a promising player and could obviously score goals, I'd move him to first bench and move Webster to third bench, because obviously then Callum Wilson can come off your bench first of all and play if any of your players don't play. And maybe I might say play him over Buendia, so then you have a Newcastle player, so it adds a bit more variation rather than just having 3 Villa players and no Newcastle players. But bar that, I really like your team. And the next player's team is Oscar. So Oscar, I do like your team off the bat. One positive is your midfield, how strong it is. You've got Salah, you've got Havertz, you've got Bruno Fernandes. There's 3 midfielders there, 2 who have been proven in the Premier League and 1 who is probably going to have a really good season. I like what you've done there. I also like how you've got Kostas Tsimikas in there, because Robertson sadly is injured for Liverpool, but then that means there's a vacant spot in that left-back position, and I don't expect James Milner to fill it in, because Kostas Tsimikas is a left-back, and he's probably thinking, why would a 35-year-old James Milner play there when I'm an actual left-back? And obviously Liverpool kind of need James Milner in the midfield, with Henderson not necessarily getting enough minutes in pre-season to start the first game, and obviously he's been out for a while and stuff. So yeah, I like what you've done there with bringing Tsimikas in your team, and he only costs £4 million, so he's super duper cheap as well. One thing I don't really like about your team though is how you've got Ederson in goal. Not that he's a bad keeper, but the thing is, Man City have so many good assets in FPL that you kind of waste it on a goalkeeper, and I think that you could have someone like Martinez in goal, for example, or someone like that. So because Man City have so many assets, you kind of want to have more of their outfield ones as opposed to their goalkeeping ones. But one thing I do like about your team that I've just noticed then, I was going to talk about, but I went on to Ederson, is that you've got Matty Cash in there. Brilliant fullback. Plays for Aston Villa, they keep a lot of clean sheets, and obviously he's a good player and he gets forward a lot, creates chances, and I don't know if he scores goals, but he creates a lot of chances for Villa. And obviously with the emergence of Buendia, Bailey, those 2 in addition to the team, Ollie Watkins if he's fit, Danny Ings, John McGinn, it looks good for Villa and it looks good for Matty Cash as well. And another thing I don't like, no, I know I've gone don't like, but is Edinson Cavani. The problem with Edinson Cavani is, apparently, he didn't really start any games in pre-season for Man United. And because they got Sancho, they've got Rashford, they got Greenwood, they got Martial, they got Bruno Fernandes, will he get much game time? They might play Rashford through the middle, Greenwood on the left, Sancho on the right, or Greenwood through the middle, Sancho on the right, Rashford on the left, or they might play Martial, but I don't know how much game time he will get this season. and his price tag's quite a lot, and there is quite a few better options around his price tag, like the Bamfords, like the Ings, like the Watkins, etc., etc., that you could bring into your team instead of Edison Cavani. But I can see where you're coming from because he's quite lowly owned. Obviously, I don't like Richarlison as well. I've made my reasons on him as well. But overall, I do like your team, and your bench is pretty strong as well. Ismail Assar could be a really good player to come off your bench. Say none of them play in your set, well, not none of them play in the team. Say someone doesn't play in your team, you've got a strong player in Ismail Assar off your bench. You've got the cycling GK, Ben Foster right there, solid backup keeper. And obviously, Obafemi, you could have a breakthrough season for Southampton. Who knows? Danny Ings leaving. I expect them to sign a new striker because Obafemi's really not that level, and neither is the others. But you never know. He might get a run in the game to the team. And then Zamburek, I don't know. But yeah, I really do like your team. Obviously, Luke Shaw as well, top-class talent, and could have a really good season. But yeah, I really do like your team. But obviously, there is a few things that I don't like about it. And now we move on to Harvey's team. So what are the things I like about Harvey's team? Is that he's got Adam St. Maximin up top. A lot of people may overlook Adam St. Maximin because he plays for Newcastle and he wasn't really involved with Newcastle last season because he had, I think, long-term COVID or something, or other injury, which kept him out for the majority of the season. But when he played, oh boy, is he some player. He's constantly a threat. He's one of the best dribblers in the Premier League, and with Callum Wilson, they probably are Newcastle's two best players. And if Newcastle are going to score, I expect it to be between those two to either get the goal or create the goal, because obviously St. Maximin and Callum Wilson are such good players. And also with St. Maximin, he's rather cheap as well. So he kind of beats the price of, say, some higher assets like maybe Richarlison or something, who don't offer much more, or maybe even offer less than Alan and St. Maximin. And another thing I really do like about your team is that you've got Thiago Silva in there. Rudiger is probably the main shout for the Chelsea back line, but Thiago Silva, you can't overlook him. He is an experienced player. I know he's getting on a bit. Doesn't mean he's not good. And Chelsea had a really good defence last season, and Thiago Silva played a lot of that season in that centre back position, whether it was a back three or a back four, etc., etc. And he excels for most of the season. So I like how you've chosen him there. Things I like but also don't like is how you've got Son and Reguilon, because this could bode very well. Son could have a really good season, and so could Reguilon after having a season under his belt. But at the same time, Reguilon, he sort of has a mistake in him, and also Son, it doesn't really go quiet in big games, because I know, Harvey, you're a Tottenham fan and you will say otherwise, but he does go quiet in some big games, and he relies a lot on Kane with the link-up play. So I don't know whether Kane might be 100% at it because of various reasons and stuff. And obviously, if Reguilon is a bit mistake-prone, who knows if those two will work well together, but they very well could and excel in your team. Obviously, I've talked about Grealish, why he's a bit of an iffy one, and I've talked about Havertz, and I've talked about Salah, and I've talked about Ings as well. But there's one thing I do like in your team that I haven't talked about, which is Kasper Schmeichel. Had a really good FA Cup final, had a really good Euros, had a really good Community Shield final. He has been good for a number of months now. Everyone rated him. Everyone thought he was a solid keeper, pretty much. But I think he's escalated to another level over the last few months. He's exceeded everyone's expectations of him, and I can see why you have him in your team. Leicester, a very good defensive side, and Wolves don't score too many goals, so I see what you've done well there. And on your bench, it is quite weak, but I like how you've gone with Emil Smith-Rowe. A lot of people may overlook him because there's so many big transfers this window. A lot of people don't look at the current crop of players in the Premier League, but he is a good shout and probably will start a lot of games for Arsenal, create chances, score goals. And then you got to Tsimikas as well. I've talked about him, but maybe I'd swap Smith-Rowe and Tsimikas around, or maybe even bring Smith-Rowe into your team and take out maybe a Grealish or something, because Smith-Rowe could be that good for Arsenal this season. And also Brentford in the first game is a relatively easy fixture on paper for them. And the final person's team is Jude's team. So what do I like about Jude's team? What I really do like about Jude's team, that I might include in my team, is Diogo Jota. And a lot of managers out there may say, well, Jota doesn't start most games for Liverpool. Is he a good option when you have someone like Harvey Barnes, or Rafinha, or James Ward-Prowse, or Emil Buendia, players like that, Saka, who are a little bit cheaper than him and in around the same price, who are going to start more games. But countless times last season for Liverpool, Jota would come off the bench and score a goal. So he's a really good player off the bench, even if he doesn't start. And if he does start, he has a full, 70 to 90 minutes, because that's how much he'll probably play, to score a goal. And also, Jota is a very versatile player. So he can cover for Salah, he can cover for Firmino, or he can cover for Mane. So it's not like, oh, he's a striker and he's not good out in the wing. So if Firmino isn't playing, he will play. But if Salah and Mane aren't playing, that's a bit of an iffy one. No, he can cover for all of those positions. So it does bode well for having Jota in your team. And he only comes in around 7.5 million. And with the amount of goals he scored last season, considering he was injured for a fair few months, if he has a season this season where he doesn't get injured, he could have a really good season for Liverpool if he replicates the form that he did last season. And another thing I like about your team is that you've got Ibrahima Konate in there. I've heard reports that Matip and Konate will be the starting centre-back pairing for Liverpool when the Premier League starts. And obviously, not a lot of people may not have heard that information and may think, Konate's a new boy, he'd probably be fourth choice. But no, him and Matip most look like they are going to be the centre-back pairing for the opening game of the season. But obviously, as the season progresses, Van Dijk will come back into the fold and possibly Gomez as well. But obviously, we'll have to review that at a later date. And you never know, Konate might not start the opening game of the season, but I have heard rumours that him and Matip will do so. And also, I like how you got Martinez in goal. Brilliant keeper. No goalkeeper scored more points than him last season in the Premier League. Top stuff right there. And Son. This is the one I don't like, but also do like at the same time. I don't like it because having Son as your captain it's almost a waste of a captain in a way, because you don't expect him to score against City. Obviously, there's a lot better options on paper, but at the same time, if he does score against City or grabs a brace, it would pay off a lot. Because all right, fair enough. Son, probably a lot of managers have got him, but captain and Son, that is a big differential punt. But I like what you're doing there, Jude, and I respect that. A few things I don't like about your team though is Ollie Watkins. Will he be fit enough to start the first game? Who knows? And Reece James as well, because although I rate Reece James a lot and I think he will play, he may get rotated along with Azpilicueta and along with other players in the Chelsea team. Oh yeah, another thing I do like is that you've got Rudiger in there, top centre-back, and he played a lot of games for Chelsea last season, and when he did play, most of the time he was really good. And also he's a reliable centre-back as well, and he's experienced, so you expect him to start a lot of games for Chelsea this season as well. And then looking at your bench, I do like your bench. You've got Timo Pukki on there, someone who may not get much headlines this season, but if he got 10-15 goals, I wouldn't put it past him. And obviously, you got Ivan Toney in there as well, and he is a really good player. Although I don't really like Brentford because of the playoff final against Bournemouth, and I have a soft spot for Bournemouth, them being my second team. You can't deny that Ivan Toney is a quality player, and he may score 10-15 goals as well too. But the one thing I don't like is Ederson. I kind of think it's a bit of a waste of money to have that much of an expensive goalkeeper on your bench. So maybe you could trade him out for someone who's a bit cheaper, which allows you to spend more money on your team. So yeah, you guys have got pretty good FPL teams and you've chosen pretty good players on paper, because obviously these players that we see as good players and I see as good players may not play well. But on paper, you guys look like you've got good FPL teams to succeed this season. Anyway guys, thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it and I'll catch you in the next one.